So, Brian, you always make fun of me for one thing.
What's that?
For always being out of tune.
Yeah, a little bit.
Guess what? Joke's on you. I can never be out of tune again.
How so?
Ever, because I've got a true tempered guitar finally.
Oh my god.
Do you guys know what this is? This is a true tempered guitar. Basically, it has all these squiggly frets on it. Can you explain to me what this means and why I'm never going to be out of tune again? Listen to this chord.
That's beautiful.
Perfectly in tune, right? How about this one?
Perfect intonation.
Incredible.
Love it.
So guitar is actually, in a lot of ways, the trickiest instrument. This is something you know a lot about, right?
I mean, it's an imperfect instrument, right? I mean, the whole idea of equal tempered tuning is kind of a compromise, whether it's a guitar or a piano, right? I mean, you go back in history and you'd have instruments that would be sort of tempered to specific keys, and so you could play in certain keys or certain intervals would sound really, really sweet because they were perfect intervals, right? But then at the expense of other intervals or other keys sounding really bad. And so eventually kind of everybody agreed on, at least as far as Western music goes, switch to an equal tempered kind of tuning system where we sort of split up the imperfections across all the notes of the chromatic scale. And so what that means is every key that you play in or every interval that you play or chord or things like that sounds pretty good, just not perfect. So if you've ever played, I'm sure, and it's really obvious on guitar, right? You play guitar and you play a chord and you've got your guitar is perfectly set up. It's in tune. You've even intonated it at the 12th fret. It's perfectly set up. You play a chord somewhere around the middle of the neck, and you're just like, I don't know, man. It
sounds good here, but it doesn't sound good
here.
There.
It's like there's some beating, right? When you hear when the interval isn't perfectly in, you kind of get that beating. The same as when you're kind of tuning your guitar on the 5th fret, you kind of listen for that beating sound.
And that's how you know you're close. But...
And you kind of hear a sourness in your chords. That's just guitar, right? And so some like really, really talented guitar players will actually kind of bend to intonate per the chord.
Sure.
Right? You can kind of subtly bend the notes into intonation if you can kind of...
It's kind of funny because I've been at like shows where I'm playing like acoustic guitar and like I'll be in the middle of something and maybe I knock something on my headstock and I know I'm out of tune, so I'm like, all right, B string, gonna have to bend that little part of it every single time from now on.
For sure. And the other thing that I would do a lot recording, I would tune for the part. That's something that there's a really cool video that Eric Valentine did on guitar tuning. We'll link it in the description. But he talks about just how much time he spends kind of like getting guitars tuned up for recording. He'll tune for the specific part, for the specific chord of the song, and then punch in on different... It's like the amount of OCD that goes into the tuning.
That's crazy.
And he gives in the video, gives us really great examples about how sweet it can be if you actually are tuning for the part, for the chord. But then, of course, again, you have to then tune for every chord.
Sure.
And punch in.
It's a monotonous thing.
That can kind of ruin your flow. So
one would say, but this pretty much fixes that.
So this has the true temperament system,
which is basically another word for squiggly frets.
Squiggly frets.
Okay, Strandberg sent us this guitar, Boden NX6 Plus, amazing guitar, looks great. And I thought this was going to be weird to play. Super weird to play.
Yeah, me too.
Right? But then it's so funny because it's like, well, if these are squiggly, my finger's not squiggly. If I'm going to hold down the 1st fret, somehow it's like it still just fits behind the fret and the squiggliness is not a problem.
Yeah.
Right? Because I feel like the 1st fret and the 3rd fret are the squiggliest, would you say? Probably. Is that your squiggly?
Yeah, but then there's, it's a multi-scale too. Yeah. So that's the thing. It's like you've got squiggly frets and you also have slanted frets.
Yes, fan squiggliness, right?
So a multi-scale, if you don't know how that works, is like sort of the scale length of the guitar is different for the low E than it is the high E here. So you can you have slightly different tensions, which can kind of make it more comfortable for shredding at the top and give you a little bit more tension for your low chunkiness. So you'll see guitars that'll have slanted frets Those are multi-scale guitars, not true tempered guitars. This has both the slanted fret as well as the squiggly fret. And the reason that the frets are squiggly, what it's doing is essentially trying to create the perfect interval. You know, whenever you fret a note, you're basically, what we have is a string, and it's attached here and here.
We're shortening.
Right, you're shortening the length of that string, and so you're getting more faster oscillation.
Right, wherever it is that you pinch it.
Exactly.
Right?
The fret acts as like the pinch point.
And that's what's problematic about a straight fret, is you're pinching it at the exact same spot.
And equal frets too, right? Because you're basically just dividing up the temperament just equally across the fretboard. You know, starting at the nut, right? And just kind of going, bip, bip, cutting it. And that gives you a guitar that when you intonate it at the 12th fret and you tune it, it's mostly in tune and mostly plays great for all different keys. If you want to start getting a tweak head, you have to start individually changing these relationships. And there's a formula that they use. There's a lot. You can go down the rabbit hole on temperaments and things like that, and there are different types of temperaments. There's been different attempts at squiggly frets. Some attempts sound sweeter in certain keys. This setup is supposed to be sweet in all keys, so you don't have to sort of worry about what key you're playing in according to the true temperament fact. But yeah, there's been lots of different temperaments throughout history. And again, the whole idea is like the TLDR is like, it makes your chords sound sweeter. It makes you sound more in tune.
Right?
More resonant, just more pleasant.
Can confirm. Again, no matter where you are, even in relation to like the open strings. Again, like on my best acoustic guitars, which I love, if I try to do like a C major 7 shape above the octave and then keep the strings open. Listen to that. That sounds really... That's a noticeable difference for me that I wasn't expecting, to be honest.
No, it's great.
Yeah.
Fun fact and caveat, though.
Please.
Sean, can you use a regular tuner with
No,
this guitar?
you can't. Well, I mean, you can.
You can.
But...
Do
you want to tell him?
So, using a regular tuner, you can use a regular tuner. The problem is because this is set up specifically for these true temperament frets, you want to use there's an offset that's prescribed. So if you've ever worked with kind of a more advanced tuner like the Peterson Strobo Stomp and stuff like that, there's a couple of different ones. They let you program offsets, or they have like sort of what they call sweetened tunings that'll have different offsets. And offset just means like, let's say your low E might be -2 cents or +2 cents.
Okay, so it's not a true
zero. It's not a true.
Okay,
yeah,
right.
Exactly. So we're talking about a few cents in either direction.
Which nobody can really hear, but a tuner can pick
so you
up,
can still play this guitar in a band with other instruments. That's one of like the biggest concerns people have with like true tempered stuff is like, well, this sounds in tune, but is it going to sound in tune when I go play with the band? It's like the offsets are not enough. We're talking like 2 cents, 3 cents. At max. So it's like you're probably not even getting your guitar in that.
Like, who invited Mr. 432 in to the band? Who invited this guy, right? No, that's awesome.
However, there's a free app that we used to tune this guitar. We can link it in the bio. It just runs on your phone or your computer. It's totally free, and you can set it up you can select the true temperament. You can also select a bunch of other preset temperaments that you can just use on a regular guitar. So I would definitely experiment with those.
That's cool.
That's some fun stuff you can get into.
I think we're going to have a tuning video coming out too.
Yeah.
Because I want to talk about that Peterson strobe tuner and how it's different.
For sure.
So that'll be in another video, so make sure you subscribe to this one. But also something that, one of the reasons that you're into this stuff, and you got me into the squiggly life, was because first of all, this guy has golden ears, right? And you do video game compositions and stuff for big AAA games. So when you're doing something with like orchestral patches, you kind of need it to be on the money every single time, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would just think recording in general, being in the studio, like you're always tuning, you're always wondering how could I have this sound better? How could this sound better against the other instruments in the track? And guitar is always a pain point, right? And so this is not just like video game compositions are not more in tune than other things, or TV and film is not more in tune. It's just all like making music with bands. I did that for a decade. It was the same thing. It was like, how can we have better tuned instruments. And so now we have things like this. We have Evertune. We'll talk about
We'll
that
have another video on that coming
pretty
up soon, I'm sure.
We're just into the
Man, we're just doing it.
Tuning life.
We are your go-to source for all things in tune.
Yeah, it's just nice to have instruments that you don't have to. I mean, because time is money in the studio, and it's not even money. Time is your patience, right? 'Cause it's also like, even if you're just a hobbyist, you're thinking like, you have a sense of momentum, right? When you're recording and when you're like in the flow. And what sucks is having to be like, oh crap, the guitar's out of tune.
Especially if like you nail a take performance-wise.
Yeah, and it's
like there's part of it that just isn't sitting right. It's like, man.
Yeah, you get really frustrated.
Oh,
right?
It's
and
the
you're
worst.
listening back because it's not something that you necessarily hear until you like play it back.
Right.
And so what's fine for live, in the studio, you're kind of like, oh man, like I really wish that was a little bit sweeter.
That's kind of my thing. What's fine for live? That's the Sean Daniel ethos.
That's fine. It's fine.
It's fine for live. But he's teaching me how terrible I actually am in a studio environment. But I'm getting better, guys.
It's learning.
I will say, like, I am shocked by how my hand has adapted. Like, it took me 0 seconds to adapt to this. I thought it's like, oh, this is going to be...
Yeah, you'd have to learn it.
Right? No. It's just like...
I mean, it plays as great as all the other Strandbergs. Like, Strandberg just kind of play great out of the box.
Yeah, for sure. And, like, but the chords don't require...
Yeah, even bar chords, full bar chords.
That was going to be my thing. It's
you
like,
thought you were
okay.
going to be kind of doing a weird contortion.
No, it's just like, your finger still lays
figure it out.
flat, but you're... Even with a margin of error, or a margin of difference, it just pinches in, like, the right spot, and it's like...
What's funny is if you play this for a little while and then you go play another guitar. Here's the thing. Here's what's amazing about human ears is that even if equal temper tuning is kind of off, it's fine. We get used to it, and we're cool with it. Like we're just used to it.
Yeah, people have to tell me how out of tune the old Zeppelin albums are.
No, your ears just adjust. And so the thing is if you start if you sit down and you play one of these for 10, 15 minutes, and then you go play another guitar, your ears will have adjusted to the better temperament.
Interesting.
Even if you don't have amazing ears, they will have adjused to the chords you're hearing.
Oh man.
And then it'll take another 10 to 15 minutes to adjust back to sort of the
good enough for live.
The good enough for rock and roll.
Well, this is super cool, man. I thank you to Strandberg for sending this over. You're going to be hearing a lot more of this in future videos. Let us know what you want us to do with these. The first time I started playing a Strandberg was that NX7, where I did like a shred month, where I practiced just shredding for a month. So maybe I'll have to do that again. There it is. Do you want to show them what you did to the trem?
Oh,
this is
fun.
While we're here.
So trems are not my friend.
He's a never trem.
I'm a never tremor. That's another video.
Never tremor.
I think we're gonna
It's a hot take, yeah.
I put in a tremolo on there so that I can lock and unlock it so that it doesn't.
Because if it's floating, right? It's
like, your palm is always kind of hitting it, and that's just because I'm a spaz. That's it. It's not. Yeah. That's why I love these hardtails.
This one's a hardtail, so there's no like whammy or anything. It's just like boom, locked in.
Yeah, and so that kind of effectively does the same thing. It's the same thing as blocking your trem. It's just kind of a clever little tool.
Never tremor. Love it.
Although I feel like we should talk about the thing that I just taught you about on the Strandberg bag.
Oh, you want to show? Oh, yes. I did not know that.
We gotta do that. This is the
best gig bag in the game. If you're like traveling and stuff, this one is so nice.
So you got your all typical accoutrements, little strap, your little backpack
like
kind of
that.
strap.
I love it.
So, but let's say, okay,
sure,
dark, stormy night.
Yeah.
You're out, just public transportation. You're walking home.
Got a live thing.
You got a live thing. You got a gig.
Good enough. My ears are good enough for what's gonna happen. Yeah.
It starts raining, man.
Ooh.
What's it? Your car gonna get wet?
Yeah, I ruin your awesome, amazing car. Look at that. What you got? That bot.
Nah.
There's actually, I've owned a Strandberg for like well over a year now. I didn't know that this was in the gig bag. There's like
this thing pops out and you can put it over the side that you're not
How did you find out about this?
Dude, I was just
opening
exploring.
pockets, or
I was
just
just
wow,
opening
just man,
pockets,
a real
yeah.
adventurer's spirit.
I was like, what's this pocket? And I thought that was really cool. And I'd never seen anything like this. And not only does it protect it from the rain, you put it on your back. It's, you know, now you're not going to get hit by a car on that dark night.
Or maybe if you're with a hot date, you offer it to her, even though it doesn't detach from the bag. You could just put this over her head, and then just, you know, there you go.
Suffocate
Just walk,
your date.
suffocate your date. Perfectly in tune. Listen to that. Oh my gosh.
True temper. The best.
So again, thank you, Brian, for educating me on this incredible thing. Go check out Brian's music, link in the description. Then get yourself a freaking Strandberg because
thank you, Strandberg, for
the neck too. Look at that, roasted. I'll put some close-ups on.
What do they? There's a name for this. Their specific Strandberg neck that they have, that roasted maple, but it's got this little divot. So it's not a V. It's almost like
because it changes on its way.
Yeah,
down.
It's
like
got
this
a little.
Ergo,
I don't know if you can see it on the camera.
Like Ergo V or something. I'll probably look it up. Maybe I should look it up. Maybe I should know the names of these things.
We'll put it in a little title.
We'll put it in a title.
You'll put it in a title.
Do the dirty work out here. Yeah. All right. Well, anyways, like I said, let us know what you want to see us do with this bad boy. If you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, we'll talk to you soon. Thanks a lot.
Cheers.